Welcome. Wrestling with the Future is live. Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Mad Dog DeCipio, joined as I am each and every week by Amelia B. Chapman. The B stands for boom, boom, shakalaka, boom, boom. How you doing, Amelia?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. What'd you do the last couple of days?
Just work.
Work. See, you work too much, kid.
I do,
You
don't
have a
I?
little time for play.
None at
Should have
all.
been with Johnny. He was in Florida. He just came back from Florida. All he did was play all weekend.
I live in Florida.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Why don't you
I
hang out
do.
with Johnny, damn it?
I didn't know he was here. That would have been better than work.
Well,
At the
let me
clinic, I
introduce
do.
our special guest. We have a very special evening tonight. It is a salute to a man who left us way too soon. Chris Candido. We are joined by none other than his brother, who in his own right is a hell of an accomplished professional wrestler. I want you to meet Jonny Rea. Am I saying your name right, Johnny? Is it Ray or Rhea or Rhea? How do you?
It's Ray. Ray like Shea Stadium, like
Yep.
SHEA, Ray like
You got it.
REA, like that.
It's
That's how you say it,
interesting
right?
your name is Jonny Rea because I knew a guy named Jonny Rea
Oh
years
yeah.
ago. He was an old movie star from the 50s, and he was a singer and a nightclub performer.
Yeah, in the beginning of when I started working, so like my brother, my mom was married out of high school to Don Candido. They split amicably. My mom remarried to Greg Ray, had me and my sisters. But when my brother lived here at the house in Spring Lake, and then so long story short, when I got in the business, instead of like explaining all that shit, he's like, just call you Johnny Candido so we could do a brother type, gimmick.
Yeah.
So instead of explaining that we're half brothers, because we weren't half brothers, we lived together for our entire lives. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you
So-
what. You'll look like the two peas from a pod for sure.
Yeah,
And
our mom's side's pretty strong.
Yeah, no shit. Damn, man. But I'll tell you what, I have a funny story. I'll tell you a little bit about how I knew your brother. A long time ago. He actually worked a couple shows for me, but this one was a little unexpected and quite a surprise. I did a show in Atlantic City at the Sands Casino. And I believe you may have been there.
Yep.
And he was working our friend Big Slam Vader. May he rest in peace, Walt McDonald. Good guy, real nice guy.
He was a really nice guy. Sorry to cut in. I didn't know he passed away. He was a really cool dude.
Yeah, he left us probably 8-9 months ago, maybe.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, Walt used to live right near me here in Gloucester City, New Jersey. I'm actually closer to Cherry Hill. I'm broadcasting from New Jersey. Globally, by the way, folks, we are broadcasting around the world. But yeah, I'm based here in New Jersey. And so I did a show at the Sands Casino for the 9/11 Fund. It was December 16th, 2001. And it was right after the towers came down in New York and people were, jumping on to raise money for, survivors and stuff. Well, we did a show at the Sands, and I had booked the Orient Express, Pat Tanaka, and his partner at the time, right? So I get this, you might call it like a telegram from Japan, from Pat Tanaka. He says, "Sorry, I can't make the show. I'm hospitalized in Japan. I broke my shoulder. Sending suitable replacement." And I'm thinking, who the fuck is he going to send? Who could possibly replace at this late hour? I no sooner said that, Johnny. I swear to you, I no sooner said that than 10 minutes later, your brother Chris Candido comes in with Tammy. All right. And everyone looked at me as if like this was my big surprise. And of course, I had to soak it up. Being a worker, they say they say never work a worker. Well, guess what? Bring it.
You work everyone.
I work everybody, baby. Except when it comes to money, I don't play with money. So Chris comes in and he looks at me and I look at him. I said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Come to work." I said, "But you're not. I don't have any room for you. You're not on my roster." He goes, "Did you have Pat booked?" I went, "Yeah. Funny, I just got a telegram from Japan." He goes, "I'm the replacement." I went,
Nice.
"You fucker, give me a hug." Big hug. I gave him a hug. Big hug. Now you have to know, Amelia. Chris
Mhm.
was not a real tall guy, but
Mhm.
he was broad, man. He was built like Ashley, like Johnny, kind of built the same way. Big, broad guy,
Mhm.
big arms, big
Mhm.
chest. And I hugged him. I couldn't even get my arms around his back. Kissed him on the cheek. I gave Tammy a big hug and kiss. She spent the whole night with my ex-wife at the time, and those two were two peas in a pod. You're talking about Jesus God, but yeah, my ex-wife and Tammy Sitch. But that's how I knew your brother, and he works for me a few times. But that was the time that I have to tell you, Johnny. That was the time I'll remember because he saved that show, and thankfully, through the magic of videotape, I still have it. I
Oh, really?
still
That's awesome,
have
man.
that show, brother. And
That's a great story. I have many stories that are like that, rolling up last minute and kind of making a big spectacle or saving the show, but kind of like ended up right place, right time. I can tell you one if you want to hear it. It's pretty funny.
yes,
Or just
please. That's
Please.
why you're here. I want to talk about your brother. I want to talk about you, your career.
sure.
And we're celebrating Chris's birthday too. So
Yeah, yeah. I
that's
just
why
got
we're
back from
here.
Florida
This is
for
a birthday celebration for Chris Candido.
so that story just reminded me of let's say around 2003. I just started working, and we had a it was '03 or '04, and we were booked in Jersey City. Like he was booked, I was just tagging along with him to work with Norman Smiley and Crowbar, which
Oh
is
my
like
God.
exit 15X. But also that night we had booked ourselves, I want to say off exit 2 on the turnpike to wrestle Danny Doring and Roadkill, I believe. So we were supposed to be we were supposed to be on top at the show in Jersey City. It was the Mouth of the South. What's his name? The Mouth of the South with
Oh,
that
Jimmy.
Jimmy
wrestler.
Hart.
Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart.
So
Yeah.
Jimmy Hart was running the locker room, and he's so my brother goes in and talks to him. He's like, we got to find a way to get on second because then we got to drive to Jersey City. So anyway, my brother talks to Jimmy Hart. We end up going on second. He's like, dude, hurry up, say your goodbyes. We got to get down to exit 2. So we get in my car. These are the days before GPS and everything. That they have the
Oh
map up
God.
there. He's
Yeah.
like, dude, yeah. He's like, dude, go ahead, hurry up and say your goodbyes. We got to go. So we, I'm go shake everybody's hand, say goodbye. We get in the car and we start tearing down the turnpike. And I have no gas, zero gas. I'm like, dude, we have to stop and get gas. He's like, do you want this payday or not? We got to go. We got to go. So I'm just going. I'm driving on fumes. We get off exit 2. We don't even know where we're going. It's pitch black out. He's like, all right, use your wrestler's intuition. Make a left, make a right, make a left. And then we come upon this like campground and we see Danny Doring in the ring wrestling. And my brother's like, oh shit. So we jump out of the car. We go to look for an entrance. There's no entrance. There's just this huge fence. So both of us climb this fence and go running across this, I guess it was a baseball field, run across the baseball field, hit the ring, shit can the other dudes in the ring, have the match against Danny Doring. The crowd thought it was, again, the crowd thought it was planned like that for us to come in out of nowhere, and everybody was going crazy. We had the match. We
I
had a
love
great
it.
time. After the match, we're hanging out and having a couple beers, telling the story of how we made both shows, da 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 da. And of course, like the last two people there, we get in the car, get ready to leave. We hit reverse. We start driving. It starts pouring rain, and my car dies because it has no gas. And now we're in the middle of nowhere, pushing my car. We pushed it down the hill. Ended up, I think it was Earl Naval Base, and there were these guys with ponchos, and they were telling us to get the hell out of here. It's pouring rain. Two of us are like, so long story long, we pushed the car to the other side, found like a semi, what do you call it? Like a semi like commercial area where there was cars, and then this car full of girls picked us up, drove us to a gas station to get a gas can to buy gas to put in my car to go back to the gas station to then drive home. So we got home like, I just remember the two of us when we were pushing the car in the rain. We're like, dude, how are we ever going to tell this story? You know, because it was just so.
I love
so
it.
out of there.
That's a classic, typical wrestler story. Typical.
Exactly.
That was funny.
It sounds like it was an. Yeah, and it sounds like it was an outside show. Is that what?
Yeah, it was outside. Yeah.
Oh
It
my!
was outside in like a baseball field.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
there
just
was
for the hell of it, what kind of crowd did
they had a good crowd. I forget who ran the show. I forget who was running there. From what I remember, they had a nice crowd, and it was fun. And just like I said, what I remember the most is getting there on E, and then couldn't find the entrance, so scaling this freaking fence.
Oh my
so
God.
It must look like something.
Wrestlers. Amelia, this is classic wrestler stuff.
That's
so
funny.
this is your first time meeting Johnny. So
Yes.
Go ahead, kid. Ask some questions.
That was funny. Something that I'd laugh about probably months later, especially like, do you remember the time? And then be like, y'all did that? Something like that would be so funny to talk about later on. And I was reading
I had plenty of those.
So did you guys ever just sit around, just watch movies and just talk about like normal stuff like, when y'all were kids? Like, do you remember the time when we were little, we did this, and later on to your mom, you'll confess stuff, later on to her?
Well, so when we were kids, so my brother had the fourth floor of our house was all his. It's like the fourth floor, like the house we grew up in. It's there's like a bedroom, and there's also like a storage. I guess you could call it a closet, but it's big. It's probably like 10 by 10 or something. Not long.
Johnny, was it a 4-story colonial like they used to make up in North Jersey?
No, it's like it's a big house. It's in Spring Lake. It's like there's a ground floor that's like the kitchen, like the regular kitchen, we eat it and everything. Then there's like I guess you would say like a TV room where there's couches and the TV and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And you walk up some stairs, and then there's like a big living room. That's like kind of like decorative. There's the living room part, and then there's like a dining room part where we have like Thanksgiving and stuff. Then you can walk up the next flight, and there's 3 bedrooms. My parents, one of my 2 younger sisters, and then what was my bedroom. And Chris's then there was a 4th floor that was just Chris's bedroom. So,
wow.
As a kid, I would always, if I had like a bad dream or something, I'd run up to his room. He'd always be awake, watching wrestling, hanging out. But yeah.
How much older than you was he?
He was 10 years older than me.
Oh, so there was quite a little difference.
Yeah. And he was very, he started wrestling. He was obsessed with wrestling from day one, and he started wrestling in Spring Lake when he was 14 years old. He went to the town. Yeah, he was training at the Monster Factory. He went to the town council, got dressed up in a suit and tie, went to the town council meeting, and proposed that he wanted to have wrestling in Marucci Park, which is like it's like a baseball field around here where there's a couple baseball fields, and they said yes, and he got him and a bunch of his friends. They put the ring from the Monster Factory up. He was friends with Bam Bam at that point. Bam Bam, I think, is 11 years older than my brother. Or I think it was 9 or 11. So Bam Bam was in his early 20s and semi-established. So Bam Bam would come to the shows. My brother would run shows at Marucci Park starting at age 13, 14. But
that's crazy. Kids, I want people to think about what you're saying. This is a young Chris Candido, 13, 14 years old, that goes to the town council and successfully gets permission to do shows. Try doing that now.
I know. He was so driven.
They won't throw you in the jail. They'll throw you under the jail.
I know.
Try getting away with that shit today. That's
Yeah, he was.
amazing. I'm fascinated by the fact that he befriended Bam Bam, who, Scott was a great guy, but he could be, as you know, he could be a little moody sometimes.
Yeah, he could be. He could be.
Yeah,
But they,
and
I think Scott saw the drive in him, and Asbury is very close to Spring Lake. It's 4 towns north of us,
mm-hmm.
and he Scott trained at the Monster Factory also. So they met through there. Larry Sharp let my brother use the ring, and I have a bunch of laminated newspaper. Oh, Balls Mahoney wrestled there because Balls lives in Spring Lake Heights.
Sure.
So they had quite a crew of future pro wrestlers that were in their teens. And the funny thing is, my brother, when he was 13, he looked like he was 13. When Balls was 13, he looked like he was 35. Like Balls already had chest hair, a freaking beard. It's funny.
Always looked older, man. He really, really did. For the longest time, I thought to myself, this guy doesn't age. Come to find out, he always looked like that.
Always, yeah. It's funny. I have a whole photo album full of pictures from Marucci Park. Like I said, my brother looks like a regular kid.
Johnny, you and I had, I say had, because a lot of our mutual friends are no longer with us. But I will tell you something that brings a smile to my face when you talk about Bam Bam and Larry and the Monster Factory, because that's where I trained.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Paulsboro was 10 minutes from my house. 10 minutes away. And I knew Larry very, very well. He was a dear friend of myself and my late father. I just lost my dad in January.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you, my friend. I lost my dad in January, and my 2 greatest memories, and only Larry could pull this one off, was to getting my father inside of a ring, okay, who never was athletic a day in his life, okay? That's first thing. And the second thing was, I have a picture of my father with Junkyard Dog at our family restaurant in Camden, New Jersey. And my pop has this little beer mug, right? And JYD has the damn picture. Okay? He's got a whole picture of beer that looks like dwarfs this mug like this, right? And that was a moment because we had a hell of a night that night. Your brother was there, Larry Sharp, Cowboy Bob Orton, Afa and Sika, and Samu and Fatu. And Kamala and Stan Hansen, plus the Junkyard Dog.
Holy crap.
In this restaurant in one night at Woodrow Wilson High School. I'll never forget it, in Camden, New Jersey. They all came back to my dad's restaurant. And the funniest thing you ever want to see is Bob Orton tending bar. That was a trip, brother. That was a trip. So let's talk about Chris's birthday. You just came back from Florida, and you told me you went down to have Chris's birthday weekend. So apparently you do this every once in a while.
So on my brother's birthday, I'll either go out with a bunch of my friends. See, like my brother. So it's hard for me to call him Chris. I always called him Cook. And so did everybody in the neighborhood. When I was a kid, when I was a baby, I couldn't say Chris, so I called him Cook. Everybody in the surrounding area knows him as Cook. So, we're like, me and my friends were always like, oh, let's go out for Cook's birthday. So we'd go to like a local bar, have some drinks, reminisce, or I'd go out with my mom and my sisters. And Don Candido, I'll call him my Uncle Don. He was, he's like, why don't you come to Florida and we'll celebrate Chris's birthday here. So me and my girl went to Florida and had a great time. We did all kind of cool shit. He lives in Bonita Beach, which is on the Gulf Coast. Yeah. So we did one of those fan boat rides through the Everglades and saw alligators and shit. We we went and toured a rum factory, and then we had like on Chris's actual birthday, we had a barbecue, had people over his house, and just kind of had like a little impromptu birthday party for my brother. We had a birthday cake that, we didn't like sing happy birthday or anything, but we, put candles in it, blew it out, made a wish for,
That's beautiful, man. That's absolutely, I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the anniversary of his passing is April 27th. So mean,
Yeah.
like again, me and my
We
friends
are
are.
coming up on it, by the way. It's ironic that his birthday was so close to the date of his passing.
And then
That's the ironic thing.
my birthday's May 18th,
Yeah,
so it's
and
like
yeah,
it's
and
kind of the
he,
shits around this time,
yeah.
you know.
Do
Yeah.
you often wonder, like, what coulda, woulda, shoulda been had he lived, what he might have
Yes,
achieved or accomplished? Because I'll tell you
yes,
what, brother,
because
there are guys, and I'm sure you know this, being his sibling. There are guys that are good wrestlers. There are guys that are great characters, and there are guys who have personalities. But to find a guy, one guy, who has all of these qualities is a rarity. That's called a star. Chris
yeah,
Candido was that man. He was a star. He had a personality. He was funny as fuck.
he was
He
very
was a
quick witted. He was
funny, very quick witted. Oh my God, very quick witted. I'll tell you a story about what happened in AC that you don't know. And Amelia's already jacking up for this.
I was ready. I love those
She's getting
stories.
ready for this one. So, but when you have a guy that's got all of the ready-made materials of stardom, and he doesn't achieve that level because life took him too soon. It's sad, but the thing about it is you can say to yourself, well, what woulda, coulda, shoulda, you know?
it makes me nuts because around so it's no secret that my brother, went through some shit with drugs, mainly somas, Nubane,
Yeah,
shit like that. So
sure.
he lived in Manasquan, which meant I kind of, so he lived in this area, and he was, he was using drugs, and
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, I was doing it with him. The two of us would take the
Right.
somas and fucking, everything. We roll up to the building just in like our pajamas and a tank top, and so the two of us went to Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico somas are like 5 cents, like over the counter. You can just get them anywhere. So we were getting somas. I remember walking by, after a show, we were basically homeless. We were like couch surfing, staying at Bronco's house. Then we'd stay at the Empress Hotel because a lot of wrestlers, they just let us stay there. So we were
Yeah.
basically homeless. Tammy was there too. But so we came back, our parents were like, come back, whatever. So we came back, me and him were sitting, fast forward, this is like mid 2004, early 2004. We're sitting in a
Hmm.
restaurant as we all, normally do. And we were talking, and my brother's like cutting a promo about the guys on the indies. He's like, dude, this is freaking bullshit. He's like, everybody on the indies is like skinny or they're fat, and they don't have proper gear, and they weren't trained. He's like, by the time I was 18, I was freaking jacked. I was going to Japan, da 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 da. I'm like, dude, that's why you were a standout, numbnuts. I'm like, because you were good, like that's why you made it so early, And he's just like,
Yeah.
man, he's like, I fucked everything up, didn't I? I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, you're still so young. Like you at the time you're like 31, 32. I'm like, let's
Yeah.
go. I'm like, let's go. We'll get some new gear. We'll fucking, meaning like clothes, not wrestling gear. Like, let's go up
Yeah.
to buildings looking like Ric Flair. So he's like, let's do that. So we went to Woodbridge Mall that day. Both of us bought a whole bunch of new polo shirts, button downs, all kind of shit. And I want to say it took him like maybe like a week to kick his habits, and then he was back on the upswing again. That's when he was the NWA Midwest champion. Then me and him went to WWE to hang out. It was really to talk to Dr. Tom and all those guys.
Oh God,
And
sure.
and my brother and JR had to talk, but at the same time TNA was calling him, wanting him to go there. So JR was like, yeah, we can use you probably. He's like, I don't know if it's going to be right now or later. And basically JR told my brother, he's like TNA was ready for him to go there like right now. JR is like, listen, he's like,
Yeah.
go to TNA right now. If it's not going to hurt you to go there for a little bit and then come over to here, he's like, it's a
Yeah.
win-win for you. You need money, go to TNA, and then after that you can come back here. So that's what he did. So it was almost like, and then he had that accident, and he passed away after. But it was like right when he quit drugs, and like that, it kind of like snapped in his head, like, it was like, pretty much is like, what do you love more? Is it pro wrestling? Is that what you love, or is it fucking And he loved wrestling.
There is Johnny and I, and I don't like surprising anybody. And I don't do that, but it's been well talked about during Chris's life that perhaps Tammy was not the most positive influence on him.
It's terrible. She was the worst.
Yeah.
It's it really sucks because I don't, like, we talked about it a lot this weekend. It's so hard for us to square because my brother, the biggest heart, was the nicest guy.
I know,
to everyone. You know what I mean? Like his house was everyone's house. He was the man, and she was the opposite. She was just not a very good person. And then when she got drunk, she was just very physically abusive, freaking attacking people.
Yeah.
I have more stories about her.
Well, I'll tell you what, maybe it was just the timing. Maybe she was respecting the fact that an older guy was in charge of a show, because I'm considerably older than both of them, even then. But I didn't have a problem from her, but I did see the cracks in the armor when she was around the younger women. I saw that. I saw the nails come out. You know what I mean?
It's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, they came out for sure. We have a couple. We actually have people in our chat room tonight that are commenting. Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond were the Orient Express. Thank you, Leon. I was trying to remember who the other guy was with Pat Tanaka. We also have a heavy hitter in the wrestling business, Johnny. This is Herb Simmons. Herb is if you know the name Herb Simmons, he's a big deal, a very big deal, and a dear friend of mine.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, great guy. Here you go. Leon says, I remember Balls and Bob Bradley in Smoky Mountain.
Oh, Boo
interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Just watched Chris on the Memphis show on YouTube. I want to open this up for just a second, John. I want to ask our chat room if you have any questions for Jonny Rea, Chris Candido's brother, as a wrestler himself. If you've got questions about his career or questions perhaps about his brother, please feel free to ask. We're going to be here for a little while tonight, so let's make it. Let's make it like Chris would do. Let's make it all inclusive, because Chris never.
And also questions about anything. Nothing's off the table. I don't care if you want to ask about drugs. Tammy,
and I appreciate
good things, bad things.
Absolutely, and I got to tell you guys, Johnny has agreed to just let nothing's off the table. So the interesting thing is, it's funny. I could tell you a little bit about the rest of that show that night. I had a guy working the show named Bodacious Brad. He sometimes wrestles under the name Ravage. Does kind of like a moondog gimmick with the bone in his hand. Well, you know the rules of wrestling. Before you have a match, go to the restroom, never eat until after the show was over, then go to the diner and pig out. Brad did not do that. He ate a full meal before he came to the show. That was bad news for Brad, but great news for Chris Candido. Because Brad had to leave a 30-man battle royal, go backstage in the stands, backstage in the production office, puke his guts up, while Tammy and God, I'm laughing. But Tammy and Chris came out, and Chris came out wobbly-legged, and I don't know how he didn't fall down, but he came out wobbly-legged like he had a load on,
Yeah.
And all I could do was laugh from that time. And every time I see him do that on tape, I crack up because I know what was behind it. I have, if you know the story, then you'll even laugh harder. But he saved that battle royal, brother. And he saved that show for me. And I will never, ever, ever forget that, what he did to me and did for me. But the best thing he did for me was he was my friend. That was the greatest gift he ever gave me. We have a question. Here you go. Jimmy Thunder from Down Under. This gentleman is a loyal viewer, Johnny.
Yes.
He's actually in New Zealand right now.
Wow.
Thoughts on Paul Heyman? I heard he stiffed Chris on more than one occasion. What about Paul?
All right.
He had
So
a reputation, right?
Yeah, I think so. On a personal level, he was outwardly, he was very gregarious and very like he made it seemed like anything he was mixed up in was very important. I'm talking about when I was a kid, like hanging around the ECW locker room. He was obviously in charge. He was a great motivator of the guys. And then years later, when I was wrestling, I saw him up at WWE. He was super cool to me. But I think when it comes to him and my brother, what had happened was, my brother wanted to help grow ECW, wanted to make it, bigger. So what he would do is he would use his regular credit card, and he would book all the flights for the boys and the hotel for the boys, and Paulie would reimburse him. And he was doing that for a while, and getting reimbursed for, let's say 2 years or whatever. And then toward the end, he was doing it. Then he didn't get reimbursed, and Paulie went to WWE, and my brother was out. I want to say, if not $250,000, maybe like 200 grand, something like that. And that caused him to like lose the house that he was in.
Yeah.
And so, he never, and
that's
of course,
the number I heard.
Of course,
too.
the way my brother is, there was no written like contract. It was a handshake deal. So my brother couldn't take him to court for the money. So he was out. Yeah, I think he was out like around $200,000. So he was really down in the shitter then. And that's when he lived. The worst I'd ever seen him was when he with the drugs and stuff was when he moved to Brigantine, which is way far from Spring Lake. I mean, relatively far, an hour.
Yeah.
But
that's where I knew him from.
And
Johnny,
that's
how I knew him.
I'll persuade him to move back.
Yeah. Well, he was.
Those were like his darkest times. Then that's when
I was going to say to you, when he lived in Brigantine, I knew him down there, but that's where Pat Tanaka lived. He was his neighbor.
Yeah, I was going to say both of them hung out together.
Yeah, all the time. They both lived down the shore, which was, a hop, skip, and a jump from, my Atlantic City show, because I ran shows in Atlantic City all the time. The interesting thing was you threw a number out that's the number I heard was 200 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Paulie was the guy that, man, if he paid all the money he owed right now, he'd owe somewhere around $7 to $8 million. He owes a lot of people a lot of money.
A lot of guys working for free, toward the end, especially.
Yeah.
Because they had, he promised the guys the world, and they wanted to believe it and stick with it, and that it become. I mean,
Shane Douglas is still waiting for his 150 grand that he'll never see.
Yeah,
been talking about that 150 grand for the last 10 years, man.
You know what? My brother was the type to forget about it. Like, seriously, after it happened, he's just like, you know what? He's like, I remember like my mom and everything. Like, he told them what happened. And he's just like, you know what? He's like, it's just stuff. I can get it back. I'm not going to harp on it, that it ruined my life. I can get it back. Like I said, after he lost his house, he moved to Brigantine, which was not a very good place. He wasn't in a very good place mentally, or substance-wise. So I convinced him to move back home to Manasquan, which is a town very close to where we grew up, like a mile away. Yeah, it's right down the shore too. So he moved to Manasquan. And we had a no somas during the day policy. So during the day, the two of us would be training. The Manasquan River was his backyard. We had a boat, a bunch of kayaks. So during the day, we would just train, go for kayak rides, take the boat out, go fishing. So he kind of that's when he started getting,
Bonding,
getting himself back together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nice.
So that really, it was really cool to be around. I was around all the time, but around those last couple of years of his life, me and him were together every freaking day. And I'm glad that I was just making, I was just making a living through independent, being a professional wrestler, which when you first start off is not a great living.
Oh
but
my
luckily,
God!
Yeah.
But luckily, my parents have money, so I would hit them up for cash if I really needed it. But I always looked like a wrestler. I was big, had muscles, long hair, so I would sell gimmicks, 8x10s, Polaroids. So I make a couple $100 on the weekend, and my brother made money, so we'd whack up kind of whatever we had, and that was it.
Well, let me ask you about that. I'm going to follow in because you opened up the door there. So how long after, or how quickly after, did you decide maybe there's something in this for me? Maybe I can have a career.
It was always in my mind that me and my brother would be a tag team, because growing up, we wrestled in the backyard. I was always Big John Studd. He was Doug Summers. He was Ric Flair, or he was one of those guys.
Yeah.
He was Nasty Ned Brady too. He would kick the shit out of me when he was Nasty Ned Brady. But I always figured that the two of us would be together as a tag team. So it started. My wrestling career started as we were in Rochester at an independent show, maybe in 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
And so he looks around the locker room. He doesn't know any of these dudes, and he's like, bro, he's like, me and you will just wrestle for the main event tonight. I'll just work with you. I'm like, really? Is that cool? He's like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, just keep your ears open and listen to what I say. Prior to this, all I'd really done was get into the ring, learn how to take a bump, take a flip bump, hit the ropes, fucked around with him, but I never had a match. So we had a match that night, and I'll say my first 15 to 20 matches were against my brother, and then we had a feud which ended in a cage match, which won match number 2. Remember this the Declaration of Independence website? So they did a match of the year gimmick in 2004, and that's kind of when the year that I kind of like broke out. Me and Balls Mahoney won match of the year number 1 for a tables, ladders, and chairs match, and then me and my brother won match of the year number 2 for the.
We're going to see some pictures from that match, by the way.
Oh, you have the one of the cage match?
Yeah. You know what? That's a great. Why don't we just go into it right now?
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at this.
See my manager? Dude, that was awesome.
I'm going to send you a copy of that to have. You
That was great.
you saw in that that video tribute a young lady that a lot of people don't know was associated with Chris. She was very instrumental in helping him in his career. A young lady that's going to be a guest on our show in a couple of weeks, actually, Missy Hyatt.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do you know
Yeah,
about? What do you remember about
I hung
Missy
out at her
Hyatt?
house many times. I remember
She's
she was super cool. We'd always we hang at her
wonderful
house
lady,
when
right?
we were in New York City. Yeah, she's an awesome lady. She was always super nice. We hung out at her house in the city. A funny picture that I saw there that reminded me of Missy Hyatt is when I was working with the Patriot, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
In the background, you saw the Iron Sheik. He was managing me.
Yeah.
And he was managing me for a while. And that match was funny because, me and Tom Brady were the Patriot, whatever. We ping-ponged around with weapons for a while. And, hitting him with a kendo stick. He's hitting me with this. Iron Sheik got so excited, he started swinging his flag and whacking the shit out of both of us. We were trying to walk around the building and kind of hit each other and stumble. He's like, "That's what I thought." He's chasing us, freaking hitting the two of us. But
oh my God, I love it.
So we were how Missy Hyatt tied into the story is the night after we were in New York City for something, and Eric Sims.
Oh sure, absolutely.
So he was Iron Sheik.
He handles everybody.
Yeah, he was Iron Sheik's handler, for lack of a better word. Yeah, he's like, "I hate this jabroni. The Eric Sims is the number one son of a bitch, piece of shit," and he's just yelling about Eric Sims, and he's like, "Bambi." He called me Bambino, and my brother Bambino, because he couldn't say Candido. He's like, "That's right, Bambino," and Bubba meant brother. He's like, "That's right, Bubba. That's right, brother. I hate the Eric Sims." So Missy Hyatt lived close to this restaurant we were at, and we went over to her house, and Iron Sheik pulled up. I'm sorry, yeah, Iron Sheik was in Missy's house, and Eric Sims pulled up in the car because he had to take Iron Sheik to the airport, and he's like, "I'm not going with Eric Sims. I'm staying here with Johnny Bambino. Fuck you, Eric Sims." And we're like, "Yeah, that's right." Me and my brother are like, "Yeah, dude, fuck Eric Sims," and we're just doing it to get a rise out of him, And then Eric Sims is honking the horn. He's like, "Come on, we gotta go." And he's like, "I'm not going. I'm staying with Bambino." And me and my brother pull ourselves to the side. We're like, "Dude, he probably should go. He's really gonna come back home with us." We're like, "Yeah, let's tell him to go with Eric Sims." So we're like, "Sheik, you know what? Next time you can stay, now you should probably go with him." He's like, "That's right. All right, bring me to the airport, Eric Sims."
Oh man, yeah, I love Khosrow. He, by the way, Iron Sheik Khosrow Vaziri. He is that man's an original. Trust me. And when he goes off,
and it's not a work.
It's not a work. That's him.
Yeah,
everything's a shoot with him.
Time.
It's all shoot.
He had him ready for that picture. Okay, I'm ready to come on, come in the ring. That pose. Come on, I'm ready for you now.
Exactly. Amelia, questions for Johnny.
Oh, I was just wondering. I love that you had raised money for that family with the autistic boy that lost his father and his mother. That's a wonderful story. I guess people donate to that.
You know what? I'm not sure if I'm one of those people. If it's someone if I see a GoFundMe and read the story, I always donate.
Can we, Amelia? Can we tell everybody what you're talking about? Because I think when you have a good story like this, I think that people need to hear about it because we hear so much, for lack of better word, we hear so much doom and gloom. But when somebody does something good for somebody, you don't hear about it.
Well, I
think
noticed
we need to hear about it.
I noticed that on Jonny Rea had a gentleman passed away, and he had an autistic child, a son, and they didn't have a lot of money for a funeral. So Johnny had put a GoFundMe page on his account, and for funeral costs, for food, for anything, electricity, anything that they could help for after the funeral, for the funeral, for food afterwards, for electricity, anything to help them afterwards. And that's why I was asking if anybody could still donate to that, or do you know?
You know what? To be honest, I'm I know who the person is, and I know I donate to the person. They probably tagged me in it because the person who passed away was a wrestling fan, but was crazy over my brother. And they knew my parents. They lived in Seagirt, and we would go over the house and visit with them. And now I know. I was thinking about the person you're talking about, but now I know who you're talking about, Chris, right? That passed away. Yeah,
there wasn't any names mentioned, so I didn't.
Johnny, in that video tribute we saw that featured you and Chris, there were several of our other friends that were in there. Cook Balls was in there, Tommy Dreamer, and it's funny because I heard your rap song, which by the way we're going to play for people.
Cool.
Your friend New Jack stayed with me for 2 days here at my house. And was a wonderful guy until he got back to Ventnor and forgot that he knew me. And it's like there's just the wrestling. Johnny can explain it to you. It's the wrestling mind.
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
You have very little short-term memory, especially if taking a lot of chair shots and doing crazy shit. Your short-term memory doesn't like long-term. Like I have it. I guarantee not to the extent of New Jack or those other guys. But I have it to where, I don't remember shit I did a couple days ago.
Yeah,
I can remember older stuff, but anything that's like short-term memory is like, I don't remember.
I'll tell you what, brother. If there wasn't video of it, no one would believe me. But I mentioned a song that, and you don't know that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this. I love this song so much. And I'm straight shooting with you here. I'm not working you. I'm not pulling your leg in any way, shape, or form. This is straight up. I love this song so much. I can't not play it. So with your permission, because you're the artist performing it,
of course,
I would love to play this. Do you mind?
Yeah. And let me just to set up, you want to
set it up for us?
Yeah. So I was a rapper. I always write raps, and for some reason I just felt like I needed to make this song about the wrestling section of heaven. But I have more. So I put out a lot of music in the early 2000s. Was on different mixtapes and stuff like that, CDs and stuff. But I never put any music on the internet. Like I didn't have a SoundCloud or anything. So this is the first of any of my songs that are on the internet. But I'm going to start recording stuff. Like certain guys reached out and they're like, "Oh, dude, can you make my entrance music? Can you do this? Can you do that?" So I'm going to start. I've been writing different rhymes in my notes. So expect to hear new music coming from me. My rap name is White Shark. That's what it used to be. I think I'll keep it.
I love that.
And what is the official name of this cut?
I called it Wrestling Heaven in my notes.
Okay, and I think that's a great name for the song. Check this out. This is Jonny Candido. Check this out.
When I make it to heaven, let me in the wrestling section so I can see my brother again. That'd be a blessing. I'd ask him questions about the different lessons from his life. I know he'd still be wrestling. Would he have a different wife? When I see Balls Mahoney, he'd ask about his son. I tell him he'd get straight A's in all the games he's won. Me and Axel Rotten would have a couple laughs about when he stayed at Chris's house and funny shit from our past. I'd tell Bam Bam sharing a ring with him was special. His family's doing good, his son Shane's successful. I'd pull up a chair next to Terry Gordy, have a shot and a beer and hear every story. I'd tell Louis Spicoli my memories are the fondest. There's Andre the Giant and Adrian Adonis. I joke with Brian Christopher about hanging at Calhoun's. Check out the buffet with Haystacks Calhoun. Davey Boy's up there ribbing Owen Hart. Danny Hodges holding seminars, picking guys apart. I'm sure Eddie Guerrero would send love to Chavo. Then I'd shoot pool with Hawk and Dino Bravo. Played with Buddy Rose is back with Doug Summers. Let's have a match, I'll tag with Tracy Smothers. Every single day they'd have a new show. I wish Bolt was still in Brooklyn on Avenue O. I tell Trent Acid he was a great friend of mine. Tell Dynamite Kid he was way before his time. Kurt Hennings at the bar with Chris Canyon and Test. Tell Eddie Gilbert he's one of the best. Brian Pillman's playing cards with Dusty Rhodes. He's got a bandage on his head so his wounds are closed. I'd shoot hoops with Rick Rude, and yo, who's got next? Let's play JYD and Moondog Rex. I'd see Chic, he'd ask about Sabu. I'd see Yokozuna back hanging with Fatu. I can't forget the women, cause that would be wrong. Miss Elizabeth, Super Genie, Luna Vachon. Freddie Blassie's up there calling all y'all dorks. Working out in the gym is Mr. Paul Orndorff. I've known New Jack since I was about 11. Used to go around the building and find them all as weapons. Maybe this lifestyle's put some miles on me, but when I go, I'll die with a smile on me. Buzz Sawyer, Butch Reed, Gorilla Monsoon. Y'all be there for eternity, so I'll see you soon.
I
That's
love
awesome.
that. That is
Thank you. I'm glad,
Awesome.
I'm glad you liked it.
Awesome.
I,
glad you
no, I
liked
didn't
it.
like it. I loved it.
Yeah, me too.
Thank
It had
you.
me in
Loved it.
tears. Sorry.
That
Had
was.
me in
I'll
tears.
tell you what. We
I-
have it. We actually have. Oh, here you go.
Had me in tears.
Great beats. Darren says great beats.
No, thanks, Darren.
From Darren. Darren, do you have a question for Johnny? You're absolutely right. It's a great song. Absolutely
Mhm.
great song. That's why we featured it
Awesome
tonight.
song.
Thank you. I'm working on some more right now.
So you're a few years younger than him, about 10 years younger. So you start your career. What year? So we're looking at a timeline here. So what year you start your career?
So let's say officially, I think I had my first match in 2002, but I want to say like I started like working consistently starting in 2003
Mhm.
and 2004 and 2005. I was, I was working constantly. 2000
Yeah.
after my brother died is when, my parents didn't want me to be in the business. And
Yeah.
I would lie to them. So at the time, after my brother died, they're like, he was the NWA Midwest champion. They're like, come out here and work in NWA Midwest. We want to put the strap on you. So I was working there. And then I was the hardcore champion here. And then Balls went up to WWE and they called me up there. And I worked with Balls and Axel in WWE. And then Sandman and Sabu were up there. They're like, kid, hang around. So I was like an extra in WWE for a while. And Balls was telling me. And so yeah, I worked from, I guess I was around my whole life, but I worked from like 03 consistently to like late 07, early 08. Right after Benoit died. After Benoit died was when I hung it up for the first time because we weren't great friends, but I'd seen him prior in Atlantic City. They did the convention center, and he rolled up with Jamie Noble. He was bouncing around in the ring, and me and him were just chatting. And he's like, your brother was a really talented guy. He's like, if you ever need anybody to talk to, here's my number. We exchanged numbers, and I was actually driving to a friend's house of mine, and I called him. I called Benoit's machine, went to voicemail, and then when I got to my friend's house, that my friend Thunderbolt, who lived in Brooklyn on Avenue O, that's in that song. That's when I heard that all that shit happened. And I was just like, man, this, because already the business had taken my brother, had taken Bam Bam, and a couple other guys.
First it was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and God correct me if I'm wrong, I think Bam Bam was first. Chris,
no,
second.
My brother was first.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. So Bam.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. It was Chris, Bam Bam, Eddie, and then Chris Benoit.
Yes.
No, I know. Eddie and my brother were at WWE together right before my brother went to TNA. Eddie was first. Eddie died before my brother. I'm almost 100% positive. Because I can picture the two of them hugging backstage in WWE when we were there.
I'm trying to get it. I know the Chris Candido passed in 2005. That I know.
Yeah. When did Eddie Gilbert go? It had to be before that because I saw the two of them hugging together.
Yeah. So it's man, the timelines are so. You know what
I think
problem
it was
is, Johnny, that everything was so close together. If you remember back then, it was like it seemed like every week somebody was dying.
I know.
I mean,
And
isn't it
I remember
crazy? It was nuts, man. It was.
it was like the reason I was so prolific wrestling, because I was like, this is what my brother would want me to do. Like after his funeral. So it was like I said, Spring Lake's a small beach town in between Belmar and in between Belmar and Manasquan. It's like it's a beach town. It's not it's at the Jersey Shore, but it's not a party town. It's more for like year-round residents or whatever. So this is where we grew up. And when my brother died, it's like the entire wrestling industry descended upon Spring Lake. Like I remember at St. Catherine's Church, every wrestler, period, was there, just just all outside the church waiting to see my brother. It was everybody from Terry Funk to Mick Foley to CM Punk and it was just
Well,
so
that's how
that
you
whole time
know,
was like a blur. That whole time was
that's how you know when a guy makes an impact. When legends will leave the comfort of their home to fly in the middle of bumfuck New Jersey, to pay tribute to a guy that was a hell of a worker
and
a
it really
talented
helped.
guy.
And those guys were so awesome, and also like after he died, and like the weeks following, I was like, I didn't know what the fuck to do, because we were like best friends. We were together every day. And so maybe like my 10, 15 best friends, like locally, were with me 24/7. And then Sandman and Sabu stayed at the hotel in Spring Lake. So we'd all hang out together. They stayed a couple extra days after the funeral and all the things like that. And that like meant the world to me, because I had like my home friends and I had my friends from the business. It was like very comforting, But then, I jumped right back into wrestling, and it was tough, man. It was tough because on one hand, I loved wrestling, and it made me feel so close to my brother, and that whole community just made me. It was comfortable to be around those surroundings, especially after my brother passed, and then I had my
People
family.
don't understand that to kind of shed a little bit of light on what Johnny's talking about. There's people can say what they want about wrestling and wrestlers, but I will tell you something, and this is straight shooting. You will not find a more loyal group of guys, a brotherhood. When I tell you a brotherhood, these guys are thick as thieves, man. If one goes down, they're all going to descend to pick them up. If they can pick them up, they're going to lift them up. If it's not too late for that guy, trust me when I tell you, there's going to be people in the wings to support the family if they need to. Wrestlers are a peculiar bunch, but one thing they are is fiercely loyal when it comes to the brotherhood. That I will tell you that. I've been in this business. I've said it on the show many times. I've been in this business going on 46 years. Okay? I'm not a young kid. I've been around a long time, and I worked for them all. And they know me and I know them. But a guy like Chris Candido comes around once in a generation, maybe if you're lucky, once in a generation. A guy who can work, has a personality, has a body, can actually perform at a high level day in and day out. People don't get that.
And
what it's like to perform at that high level every day. Johnny, tell them what it's like.
And there's also levels to this stuff too. Like when I first broke in, like the first two guys that it's easier to work with guys that. So I would work with my brother. I'd work with Balls. That's like for my first 15, 20 matches, and I'd like to call things, or I'd like to talk about it before the match with my brother. I'll shoot you into the turnbuckle, boom, overhead belly to belly. I'll do a senton. You move, da da da. So I start getting a little bit better. My brother's like, dude, we're not. I'm like, let's do this gimmick where I do this, do that. He's like, just keep your ears open, call it out there. He's like, we'll do it on the fly.
Yep.
And that match, I remember,
old school, baby, old school.
Like he'd be like, all right, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, arm drag, boom, 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 boom. Then he's like, so basically he ran me ragged for 25, 30 minutes. And in the back, I was like freaking heaving. I was so blown up, and he was fine.
Yeah.
He could have just, he could have gone another freaking hour if he wanted to.
Sure, he could. He
yeah.
had Amelia. Chris Candido had some ridiculous cardio.
Mm-hmm.
He had some crazy cardio. First of all, he was short and stocky, which means he didn't have a lot of, solid muscle, but he was a big, muscular guy. He had a big frame for a shorter guy. I say short, he was like under 6 foot, like 5'9", 5'10", right?
Yeah, I'm 6 foot. He was short. Yeah, I'd say he's like 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, because I'm five, but I'm short. Okay, I'm 5'4", and I worked as a referee a lot because I'm shorter. Because I made the guys look bigger than they already are, and but next to Chris, I was kind of average because he wasn't, huge. But he had these wide ass shoulders, like Johnny does. He had these wide shoulders, and look at his arms. He's got
I know.
got some big arms.
And look how tan he
I gotta
is.
get back to lifting.
How many days were you here in Florida?
I just came back today.
How many days were you here? Like 2?
No,
Yeah, he just came back from back to New Jersey. Yeah.
No, but how many days were you here? Like 3, 2?
Yeah, I left on Thursday and I got back today, or like late
Look
last
at that.
night.
Look, he's darker than I am, and I've been here like 11 years.
No,
that's because you're pale. You need to go outside. That's the problem.
Hey, my patients need me. Okay, I can't help it. Okay.
Well, tell them to come outside for a picnic. What the hell?
Right?
She works with patients. Okay, you ready for this crazy stuff? She worked. Can I tell them what you?
Go ahead.
She works for Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah, I schedule
that's what this
appointments.
Crazy woman does.
I schedule appointments for people that are on Medicaid, Medicare, and
how many former wrestlers do you have as patients?
I was going to say, right?
A few, probably. You never know. No, but it's interesting work. But it's worth it.
It's been a hell of it, man. That's a fast hour.
Yeah, for real. My gosh.
Can you come back and do like a part 2 with us?
Yes, we want to talk more about you, and
I would love to have you. Because we barely scratched the surface.
Oh yeah, I was going to say we've just been chatting the whole time. How long do you have? I'll tell a quick funny story about how strong my brother was.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I know that you're coming back, I will give you a 2-hour show right off the bat.
Yeah,
well,
we want to talk. We want to talk about you too. I mean, like what your interests were and everything, how it was going back in the ring, and I know that you love one of my movies, Goodfellas.
No, it's my favorite.
So it's your favorite.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite movie too. I love that movie.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, man, Jonny Rea. We'll call this part 1.
Part 1, Jonny Rea. Yes.
Part 1. I'll tell you what, man.
I'll save a lot of good stories for the road.
Yes. And I want to hear more of your songs too.
I want to. You know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we go out instead of going out with our usual intro?
Yes, please.
Why don't we go out with Johnny's rap song? Johnny, we're going to go out with your song. When we leave, stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
You got it, brother. Here we go.
When I make it to heaven, let me in the wrestling section so I can see my brother again. That'd be a blessing. I'd ask him questions about the different lessons from his life. I know he'd still be wrestling. Would he have a different wife? When I see Balls Mahoney, he'd ask about his son. I tell him he'd get straight A's in all the games he's won. Me and Axel Rotten would have a couple laughs about when he stayed at Chris's house and funny shit from our past. I'd tell Bam Bam sharing a ring with him was special. His family's doing good, his son Shane's successful. I'd pull up a chair next to Terry Gordy, have a shot and a beer and hear every story. I'd tell Louis Spicoli my memories are the fondest. There's Andre the Giant and Adrian Adonis. I joke with Brian Christopher about hanging at Calhoun's. Check out the buffet with Haystacks Calhoun. Davey Boy's up there ribbing Owen Hart. Danny Hodges holding seminars, picking guys apart. I'm sure Eddie Guerrero would send love to Chavo. Then I'd shoot pool with Hawk and Dino Bravo. Played with Buddy Rose is back with Doug Summers. Let's have a match, I'll tag with Tracy Smothers. Every single day they'd have a new show. I wish Bolt was still in Brooklyn on Avenue O. I tell Trent Acid he was a great friend of mine. Tell Dynamite Kid he was way before his time. Kurt Henning's at the bar with Chris Canyon and Test. Tell Eddie Gilbert he's one of the best. Brian Pillman's playing cards with Dusty Rhodes. He's got a bandage on his head so his wounds would close. I'd shoot hoops with Rick Rude and yo, who's got next? Let's play JYD and Moondog Rex. I'd see Chic, he'd ask about Sabu. I'd see Yoko's through the back hanging with Fatu. I can't forget the women, cause that would be wrong. Miss Elizabeth, Super Genie, Luna Vachon. Freddie Blossie's up there calling all y'all dorks. Working out in the gym is Mr. Paul Orendorff. I've known New Jack since I was about 11. Used to go around the building and find them all his weapons. Maybe this lifestyle's put some miles on me, but when I go, I'll die with a smile on me. Buzz Sawyer, Butch Reed.